Well, I believe that energy efficiency is an absolute necessity for achieving our climate goals. My name is Robert Nuij and I work as a Deputy Head of Unit in DG Energy in the European Commission and in the unit that's responsible for energy efficiency and financing of energy efficiency. Well, I believe that energy efficiency is an absolute necessity for achieving our climate goals. By using less energy, we emit fewer emissions, and next to that, the energy we don't use is the cheapest energy. It's energy that we don't have to import, which reduces our need to import, for example, fossil fuels. It therefore contributes to energy security. And at the same time, it helps companies and consumers to reduce their energy bills and therefore contributes directly to affordability, but also to reducing energy poverty. For example, if you think about building insulation and the use of heat pumps, which clearly reduce our energy consumption on a day-to-day basis. The Energy Efficiency Directive, you can see it as a roadmap for achieving our 11.7% energy efficiency target by 2030. It includes a wide range of incentives, of tools, and of legislative instruments that member states have to use and can use to support industry, consumers with reducing their energy consumption. And so we have the energy efficiency target itself. We have annual savings obligations of about 1.5% average per year towards 2030. There are requirements for the public sector, for example, to renovate public buildings and to procure energy efficient services. We have requirements for industry when it comes to energy audits and the implementation of energy management systems. And more broadly, it supports the ecosystem around energy efficiency. And there you have to think about financial incentives, but also the need to have the right skills in the market, for example, to support building renovation or energy services in companies. The revised Energy Efficiency Directive actually changes the scope of the energy audit and energy management system requirements a little bit, where in the past it was based on the type of company, thereby excluding SMEs in fact. Now we have moved towards an energy consumption basis. So between 10 terajoules and 85 terajoules per year, companies have to implement energy audits, and above 85 terajoules they have to implement an energy management system. So that means that in practice, there are actually fewer companies that are falling under these obligations. But at the same time, SMEs might well fall under those obligations when they have that higher energy consumption. And while initially that might mean a slightly higher administrative and financial burden, which for SMEs can be complicated, they often don't have dedicated energy managers, they might not have the expertise. At the same time, once you start looking at the energy consumption and at ways in which you can improve your energy performance, that opens up a lot of scope for improvement and for energy savings. So by implementing the recommendations coming out of energy audits, we see that companies can better innovate, are more competitive, and in the end are driving more sustainability for their businesses. There are a number of countries where they have put in place dedicated support systems, whether that's subsidies or services for, or even sort of networks of SMEs that help each other when it comes to implementing these requirements. A good example maybe is the Netherlands, that has gone one step further, and they've actually oblige companies that have to do energy audits to implement those recommendations that have a certain short payback time. So that in fact drives real energy efficiency measures in practice. The first step has been to move the scope of the requirement from a sort of a type of company, a size of company, to a focus on the actual energy consumption. And secondly, it also drives member states to support SMEs much more structurally. So instead of saying, well, here's the requirement and you go ahead and do whatever you want, member states are obliged to help SMEs in particular, and also micro enterprises, to implement those energy audits, whether that's through subsidies or other support schemes. So we believe that as a result, more SMEs will actually benefit from undertaking energy audits and implementing the recommendations coming out of those audits. The energy efficiency first principle is really about changing a little bit perspective. So instead of saying, well, how can we meet this growing energy demand? The question is, can we reduce that demand before we start, for example, investing in energy infrastructure, like power plants or transmission lines? And the directive for the first time obliges member states to actually make sure that when there are major investment or policy or planning decisions, whether that's in transport or the energy sector or other sectors, the energy efficiency first principle has to be implemented. So companies and policymakers have to look at how can we reduce the energy demand, whether through energy efficiency measures or other ways, before starting to invest in possibly expensive infrastructure, which might then also end up in stranded assets when those power plants or those transmission lines are no longer used because of, for example, changing energy demand or changing policy objectives. So we believe that this is a central principle because it really infuses these kind of major investment and policy making decisions with energy efficiency.